When clarity matters most, Northgene makes legal DNA testing simple and reliable. Our accredited tests deliver accurate, court-admissible results, helping family lawyers and their clients resolve matters quickly and confidently. Learn more at northgene.co.uk.
You're listening to the Today's Family Lawyer podcast, the leading source of daily news and insight for family law practitioners in England and Wales. Sign up to our free weekly newsletter at todaysfamilylawyer.co.uk and subscribe to hear all the latest news and views from across the family law sector. You can also follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter.
Hello, welcome along to the latest Today's Family Lawyer podcast. Today we are talking about a partnership between Solent University in Southampton and Dutton Gregory solicitors, which enables law students to go and get some real life experience of what a day or a week is like as a lawyer. I have John Whettingsteel, partner at Dutton Gregory, in the family team, and Brad Kershaw, the course leader for law from the university, on the podcast with me. It's great to have you both here, chaps. Thanks so much for joining. John, in the first instance, tell us a little bit about yourself and your role, please, at Dutton Gregory.
Yeah, of course, and thanks for having us along to come and talk about this. So yeah, I've been with Dutton Gregory just over 7 years, partner at the firm and the head of the family law team. So I had a team of around about 12 people in the family team. We're based across nationwide, really: Hampshire, Dorset, Surrey, Merseyside. So we are all over, and world domination's the next step, I think.
Thanks very much indeed, Brad.
Yeah, as you say, thanks very much for having us on, David. As you say, I'm the course leader for the law programs at Solent University Southampton. So our 3 undergraduate pathways: straight law, law with business, law with criminology, and then also our postgraduate pathways, which include our brand new LLM in professional legal practice, which offers SQE preparation to prospective solicitors.
Helpful introductions as ever. As I said, we're going to talk about this partnership, however you best want to describe it, which enables students on the courses to get some real life experience. And we were chatting before we started the recording that increasing that feels so much more important than it ever used to. I go back to the 80s and there were lots of people that were influenced by LA law to get into legal services, and perhaps the equivalent in the noughties was Suits, but Suits just feels so unrealistic, doesn't it? So giving these students the opportunity to actually get some real life experience is really important, Brad.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's great that people get an interest in the law through things and then come to law degrees, but I'm sure we've all had that journey where we find it's not exactly as TV makes it out to be, but then it's not like TV makes it out to be in ways that it is actually more rewarding. And that is something in the law clinic, the students get this experience, but seeing some of the cases they've dealt with and watching a 19-year-old who now feels 20 feet tall because of something they've just done for a very vulnerable person in need in society who without this would quite literally have been homeless is absolutely tremendous. So it's great that they get fed to the law. Yes, it's not always what you think it's going to be, but also it's not always what you think it's going to be in positive ways. And part of our job as a university is to find the things that students are passionate about within the law or wider professionally, and make sure they've got not just the academic skills, but the professional skills to go off and do what it is that they want to do, that they're passionate about.
John, how did the relationship come about? Who instigated it?
I mean, so I've been in touch with the university. I'm actually an alumni and a graduate from the university. So I graduated in 2008. Prior to Brad joining, he joined a similar time to when I joined Dutton Gregory about 7 years ago. I was always in touch with the lecturers there, and the university is great at keeping in touch with graduates and going in and doing lectures and meeting the students and doing mentoring. And then when Brad joined, he wanted to obviously up the involvement of local businesses and law firms. So I've been in for lecturing, and Brad said actually something that's always been really interesting to him and that he wants to do is to look at having a legal clinic and giving students real world experience. So it was really his idea. He took me for coffee. It was obviously a very convincing coffee, and said, how do you fancy overseeing this law clinic? And I was like, yeah, why not? Stick a muffin in this and we'll call it a deal. And I thought, oh yeah, by the time we get through the red tape, it'll be a year or two before it gets off the ground. And the university have been incredible. It was in 6 months of saying yes, they had it up and they had it running, and we were seeing clients.
Brad, what was sort of the driver behind you wanting to get this set up?
It was three things, really. It's an aspiration the university's had for a long time to have a law clinic. I think most law programs, if they don't have a law clinic, want a law clinic. And for us, it was three main reasons. Obviously, selfishly on our end, our student experience, that's our number one priority. Giving students, as John says, this real world experience. You just can't simulate it. You can get as close as you can, but this is a real person with a real issue, with real emotions, who's really in this issue. That authenticity is really hard to simulate. So giving them that to make them as work ready as we possibly can. The second thing then was industry. John is always very modest, and we couldn't do this without Dutton Gregory's incredible support. And John is an alumni, and he's very passionate about coming back and helping. He's now the training principal at Dutton Gregory, which is a fantastic appointment from them as well, looking after their future lawyers. But you have to make sure that it's working for the industry that's supporting you as well. Obviously, Dutton Gregory look at it as this is pro bono. This is exactly correct what they should be doing in the community for law students and for a community. But making sure that they get the rub that they should, the advertisement that they should, new clients potentially that they should, and the potential to tap into future legal professionals. And then finally, and most importantly, it's the community aspect, which is, I think most people would agree, what a university is there to do: be an anchor to the community, offer out services and expertise, either that we have on campus ourselves or through our wonderful partners like Dutton Gregory, to make sure that those who are most in need can come to this campus and get the support that they want. So it was those three things, and it's just been wonderful. The last half year that it's been running, I think it's ticked all those boxes. I don't want to speak for Dutton Gregory, obviously, but I think it's ticked all those boxes, and it's been great.
On a practical level, and for people that might be interested in getting involved in law clinics, John, what are practicalities from your point of view? How do you commit your time to it? How much time do you commit to it? And does it impose on your role, for example, at Dutton Gregory?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very lucky that the partners at Dutton Gregory are very supportive. I mean, we are a really community-based firm, and I think that there are lots of firms out there that say, oh, we want to do stuff in the community and help people out. But actually, we are ones that our actions speak louder than our words, and we will go out and we will do this. So we do lots of things with like charities and local businesses as well. So from a time perspective, effectively, it's run 3 till 7 every Tuesday and every Thursday. Tuesday is a family day, so it's myself. And then on a Thursday is our housing day. So effectively, it'll be a property lettings and revenue team, and one of the lawyers comes in then. So for my time, I commit 4 hours once a week, and one of our property lettings and revenue team commit 4 hours once a week. But actually, the benefit is fantastic, as Brad alluded to. The community engagement it shows it's needed. I think in the 6 months, we're close to nearly 200 clients that we've seen. And for me, that just shows that demand and that need is there for people to get this legal assistance.
And Brad, who is coming into the clinic to get this advice and get this support? Because we're not going to go on our legal aid rant just yet, although we might well do at some point. But there is a paucity of resources for people who simply don't have access to justice.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know John's bubbling up, getting ready for the legal aid rant, but what's actually brilliant is, as John said, the need for these legal clinics does speak to an issue in society which very much is not brilliant, that people need free legal advice because they just simply can't afford that legal advice. But what I've seen, I've been lucky enough I've sat in there from February to about July and watched John and Gina and Bev and the wonderful lawyers from Dutton Gregory, the students, and you get people from all walks of life in there. You get people who are asking for advice on dissolution of matrimonial assets, and they're talking about millions of pounds. You've got people who say, we've got 40 grand of equity between us, and I've got a child that I need to ask what's going to happen there. You've got neurodiversity. You've got people where there are criminal law implications. You've got students. It's all kinds of people. The law affects everyone. I say that to students at open days and when they start, the law is the programming for society. And that's been one of the great things for the students as well. All these people come with different concerns, different personalities, different stresses, and the students have to deal with that and react to that. So really, I don't think, and I'm sure John would agree, it's not necessarily this kind of person. It is a snapshot of the Hampshire community as a whole.
I'm going to say on a selfish level here, because we sort of have to recognise that there's a lot of philanthropy that goes into this, but actually it's a real opportunity for you as a firm to identify some potential students, to offer them an opportunity for mentoring, and then potentially, obviously, come the end of their degree, to look at potential applicants for training contracts.
We all know that family law cases can be complicated, which is why you and your client deserve reliable, hassle-free drug and alcohol testing services. From hair testing to abstinence monitoring, we can help. Visit lextox.co.uk for more information.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it gives us the opportunity to pick the best and the brightest to work at Dutton Gregory in the future. And it gives everyone the opportunity to have access not just to justice from a community perspective, but also everyone to have access to a career and a life in law if that's what they want to do. And I think that's something that I know the powers that be are trying to do, is make the law a more diverse industry. I mean, whether that's working or not with the SQE is yet to be determined. But from our side, absolutely, we want people from all walks of life, different skill sets, different abilities, because that makes a more well-rounded team at Dutton Gregory, and that makes us better lawyers because we'll all learn from each other as well.
John, what's the response from students been like to this opportunity?
I think it's been really good. I mean, this is the second academic year that we've run it. So the first year we had four brilliant students, 2 second years, 2 third years. And then the second years are now in their third year. So they've kind of become almost like leaders within the clinic. And then we've taken on more students as well. So we've now got, I think it's 9, I think it is that correct? So actually, we've taken on more students than last year. And it shows that actually, I think after the first year, students were a bit reluctant and they were like, oh, what does it involve? I'm a bit nervous about it. And those that have done it have now gone, actually, this is great. And so there's been more uptake from the students to get involved. But I think it shows from their side it's being well received as well.
Yeah, I mean, on a practical level, Brad, I'm sat here thinking to myself, I'm not completely sure I'd let 18, 19-year-olds loose on real world legal issues, but presumably there's plenty of supervision around as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There's always lawyers in there. The students will not see anyone without lawyers in there. What's incredible, I always say, as a course leader for a law program, you have a lot of proud dad moments with your students. And so when I've sat in there, it's amazing how fast, and you do have to remind yourself they are 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. John will very much take the lead in the early weeks that they're in there, and they'll shadow John and see the questions he's asking. But very quickly, the student takes the lead. John, I'm sure he won't mind me using this word, hovers kind of behind, listening to what's happening. And if that John feels there's a need to jump in, the conversation's becoming a bit lost, because obviously, for a lot of 18, 19-year-olds, it's like, that's an adult sitting across the table from me. But they take the lead so quickly and they're able to do things that sometimes John doesn't even get involved with their conversation. The student, from the moment of greeting to the end, tells them what they're going to do and follow up. And then they'll turn around and say, John says, well done. And I think what John and the Dutton Gregory lawyers are great at as well, for the student perspective, is instantaneous feedback. Even little things like a student might say, I'll get that over to you tonight. And John will say, well, will you? It's 6:15 and we shut at 7. So, manage your client's expectations. It's those little things of learning. But you're right, in a way, we absolutely wouldn't never leave an 18, 19-year-old with the client, but they're phenomenal, the students that we've had, and it's a testament to what Dutton Gregory have done with them, just how quick they take the lead. And some of them are very confident, some of them they have the interpersonal skills already, some are less so, and it's equally rewarding watching this confident person develop, watching this person who wasn't that confident suddenly being able to hand clients who can be difficult, clients who can ask challenging questions through no fault of their own. They're in a stressful situation, and watching, as you said, this 18, 19-year-old develop that way, it is very much a proud dad moment.
If I just chip in on that, I think it'll also make better lawyers of the future. I mean, I was reading an article the other day, and obviously everyone knows that AI is around the corner and it's going to take everybody's jobs. But the reality is, a lot of the jobs that trainees used to do, like research and drafting, things like AI will be more prevalent in doing that. So actually, what lawyers of the future and future trainees are going to need is to have those interpersonal skills and the ability to communicate with people and reassure people. That's things that actually, I hope I'm wrong in saying, you won't necessarily get in a classroom environment. The universities are great at teaching the academic element, but that's stuff potentially where AI will be more prevalent. Whereas actually stuff that's real world, real client experience that you would need to go outside of a classroom to get, that's stuff that I think future lawyers are really going to need.
I think that's a really interesting point, John. And Brad, I don't know whether your syllabus sort of has started to incorporate elements of technology and AI, and perhaps you can give us a bit of a steer on that. But there is certainly criticism that the education system simply doesn't prepare students for the real world.
One of Solent's things is we say we make students world ready and work ready. One of the things I've tried very hard to do as a course leader in my course, and been fantastic in following along with this, is authenticity. That the degree needs to be authentic, it needs to be professional, it needs to be practical. All these real world skills that students need, that mean they go into the employment world as employable as possible. So that is things like making sure your assessments, if you're doing civil and criminal litigation, a student should be drafting a statement of case, and it should be assessed to the level of a statement of case. They should be doing advocacy. One of our senior lecturers, Anne, works very hard with our performing arts school to get acting students in to play the role of clients for our first year students. So we try as hard as we can. As John said, resource concern means it's very difficult to do that, but we work very hard to do that. But John's quite right. One of the other things, it's not just building the authenticity and the real world focus. It's what the world of tomorrow is going to look like, and what law firms are going to need, and what law firms are going to need they don't even know that they're going to need at this point. And AI is, as John says, a game changer. We actually had a staff development day yesterday that was all about prompts and teaching students how you prompt AI correctly and responsible use of AI. One of the challenges, as you'll both know, in the legal field is, not to disparage, and other AI search engines are available, but ChatGPT, it does what it says on the tin. It's general. It's not something you'd necessarily, well, not even necessarily, you wouldn't want to use with important legal things. But Lexis and others have started developing their own AIs, and law firms have as well. And I think one of the struggles for universities is it's no different than when Lexis and Westlaw became available online, and teaching students how to use those search engines, search terms, etc. Prompt training and how to use the AI and scrutinize is just that next step. It's a big next step. It's a huge game changer for the world, not just the legal industry. One of the challenges for universities is going to be that software is expensive, and giving students a license for it. And it might be, I'm a big advocate, as John said, for more cross collaboration between industry and law schools. It might be that a law firm pops up and says to a uni, we'll give your students access to our AI that we're building, albeit obviously with confidentiality and everything guarded, because that's going to be a real struggle. I raised this yesterday and I said, yes, we can program into our law students responsible use of AI. You don't just Control C, Control V with what ChatGPT gives you. Sometimes it will hallucinate and it will tell you law justice said something at paragraph and that paragraph doesn't exist. But the challenge is going to be, if we're trying to build future legal professionals having access to legal AI databases, because you're both completely right in what you've said, which is, yeah, if you can handle the client letters and the research and the so on, what you need a law student for becomes different than it's been for decades, which is to be a higher level of subject matter expert, to basically become a moderator for some of the AI's output, and to have those sharp professional skills that an AI at this point just doesn't have. That's going to be a real challenge for universities. We're revalidating our LLB as well to add elements of artificial intelligence, financial technologies, and so on, because this is what the students want, and this is what the legal profession wants and needs. But it's going to be a huge challenge, and let's not forget, I think with a lot of sectors, the HE sector is struggling. It doesn't have a lot of money to throw around, a lot of universities. So I think there's real scope for any law firms or Lexis or Westlaw out there listening to say, if you can, get in touch with a university and start to think about shaping those future tech lawyers.
I mean, the universities is a great resource. So we obviously work with the law school, but actually we've now started working with the business school and the marketing students, because they're now going to be marketing the law clinic as if it was a law firm. And that's right. I've always said, universities are like small cities. They're a different industry. So actually it makes complete sense as a law firm, Dutton Gregory, why shouldn't we be using the IT students to work in our IT team, the marketing students to do our marketing? And so actually there are so many different industries that would benefit from collaborative working.
I wanted to come back to not necessarily AI, but technology and students' ability to adopt this when they even arrive at university. And increasingly, and I'm going to go to Brad first and I'll come to John. Increasingly, the expectation that students have that firms should be technology enabled, it will become part of their decisioning as to which firm they might choose to go into, depending on how tech enabled they are. But Brad, are you starting to see that students arrive at university with a fairly decent understanding of AI and technology already then?
Yeah, they definitely do. I mean, it happens, doesn't it, that each generation is going to be, like you said, more tech savvy in different ways than the generation that went before them. They certainly all turn up and they're using ChatGPT now, or Copilot, or whatever else. And sometimes I feel it's a bit like, if you're a driving instructor and you're taking someone on who's been given lessons by mum or dad and they've picked up some bad habits, there's that kind of element. And I'm sure law firms would feel the same, that someone comes in, they're using AI and it's like, great, you're very savvy on it, but be careful of this, and don't trust everything. Use it more as a study partner or whatever else. But you're certainly right. There's the expectation now that your degree is going to be very tech enabled, as you've said, and that law firms will be as well. Law firms, of course, will be, because there's more of an immediate commercial incentive to be that way. For smart working practices, they've got the money to invest in it, to go, actually, as John was alluding to in our chat before about, and you were as well, a short-term upfront cost for a long-term gain. Again, the HE sector doesn't necessarily have those resources to throw around, but it's something we're working hard on at the uni to make sure that tech is embedded very quickly, that we're using assessments now, we're drafting assessment briefs that put AI into it, for example, and get the students to reflect on their use of AI, how they scrutinize the AI, keeping an AI use log and so on, because it's here, the tide that's coming, isn't it? And you've got to show them how to use it properly. And also there's a lot of negative register around AI sometimes, that it could be a huge game changer for a lot of people in a really positive way. And I think it's getting them to see that it's not your enemy, it's your friend. It's going to lead to smarter working patterns. Whatever you think, positive or negative, it is inevitable. So you have to learn to use it. So certainly, you're absolutely right. There is an expectation that not just law firms are going to be tech enabled, but their degree is going to be tech enabled, and not shun that.
I go back to my own degree, and source and provenance was really important. I remember at the time Wikipedia was the enemy rather than AI. But John, I mean, firms have got to start getting with the program, I suppose, in terms of managing the expectations of new recruits.
Absolutely. What I find interesting, I've actually got someone who's shadowing me, and they're applying for some vacation schemes, and they're doing the applications online. And they said, actually, one of the firms in the application for the vacation scheme said, have you done any coding? And if so, what method of coding have you done? So law firms are now looking for people to come in that have got computer literacy. But you're right, I think we as a firm, Dutton Gregory, we're very good at actually listening to what our employees want. And again, one of the mutual reciprocities, if I can get the word out, that we've got with the university is that Brad very kindly let me go in and run a workshop with the students where I said, well, what do you want from a law firm? What do you want from a future employer? How do you see hybrid at working? What's important to you? And gave them 20 different things. And it was like, put these in the order of priority as to what's important to you. Is it holiday? Is it being able to work remotely? How many days a week should you be in the office? And is it pension payments? Is it maternity? Is it a coffee machine? Is it a gym on site? And actually, it was really interesting for me to feed back to the other partners that the lawyers of tomorrow, this is what they want from hybrid working. They are saying, actually, in our careers, we don't mind coming into the office because we want to learn through osmosis. But as time goes on, yes, we would like to be able to, if we want to go on holiday, then we'll be happy to work and go traveling. We'd like to be able to work whilst we're traveling. And I think as a business, we have to be with that and be able to offer what the best and the brightest lawyers want in order to attract them.
We are fast running out of the time that we have for the podcast. And I guess really to kind of move toward a close, we started out talking very specifically about the law clinic, some of the benefits it had both for students, for the university, and for you as a firm, John. That very clearly there are much wider benefits to such public-private partnerships. But I can't help but be left with the feeling that, as we said, without going on this legal aid rant, that we're just shifting some of that work away from legal aid to put it in the hands of these sorts of partnerships. Is that fair? Are we sort of creating pseudo legal aid
Yeah, we are. I mean, I think the reality is LASPO literally overnight just decimated the number of people that were eligible for legal aid funding. And I get that, the government only have a certain amount of money and everyone thinks that their cause is more worthy than everybody else's. But from my mind, effectively cutting the legal aid costs for lawyers, all it's done is it's limited the number of people that can afford legal representation. And so it's just pushed people into court as litigants in person. And especially in the family law arena, these are people that effectively, with lawyers on both sides, they may be able to discuss, reach an agreement. What you've now got is people that have gone through a very emotional separation, potentially with abuse or violence, that are now unable to access solicitors, that are now being forced to represent themselves. So all it's done is it's put more burden on the judiciary and the courts. And I think from our side, things like law clinics are a way of pushing back against those cuts and saying these are people that are going through a traumatic life event. They wouldn't even know where to turn, what their rights are. And we're saying, look, there is help out there. There is ways that you can get access to justice. You can get legal advice. And most people that we see, we say, what do you want out of this meeting? I just want to know what to do next. I just want to know what my rights are, because they don't know what to do.
The arguments around legal aid are going to rage, and quite rightly so. But obviously, from our perspective, there is a community need that can't wait for government or whoever else to sort themselves out. And so we'll meet that need. And the only way that really we can do that is with the help of industry like Dutton Gregory. I think there's so much benefit to the HE sector reaching out to relevant local industry, and relevant local industry reaching out to their local HE providers. It's so mutually beneficial to give students an experience that they otherwise just wouldn't have. It's for the industry as well to have that university to exist in, and for the community impact as well, and to increase the sophistication from our perspective. Law degrees increase the experience available to law students and have a positive impact on the community. So I'd love to see, as John said, it's one of the things I push really hard for, is as much industry incorporation as possible, because they are the experts. They're dictating the future of the legal profession. Have your relevant industry in across all kinds of degrees, and please, relevant industry, reach out to your universities. There's so much benefit for you as well, and they will always greet you with open arms. You will find something that you can do together.
And I don't think it's going to get any better either. That's the difficulty. Very low on an agenda will governments be saying, yeah, we're going to put money into the legal profession. They always put on their manifestos, we're going to put money into the NHS, because people go, well, actually, I might need GPs, I might need doctors, I might need medical assistants. No one ever thinks, well, I might be arrested tomorrow in criminal court. And again, it could happen to anybody. But until you need it, you then don't go, oh my gosh, these resources, this access to justice isn't there for me because the government aren't funding it. But it's so easy for people to say, well, that won't happen to me, so I don't need to worry about that. It's, from the government's perspective, putting money into the legal industry isn't a sexy sell, and it isn't going to get them votes. Saying things like education and medical, that's what gets them the votes, and that's what they're always going to push.
We said that we weren't necessarily going to go on that whole legal aid rant, for want of a better word, but I think it's a very fair point to make around access to justice. There are some interesting proposals flying around about how funding for access to justice could develop over the next few years. Not one for today, but I'm very appreciative of the time that you've both shared, some of the learnings as well that you've had from the start of the law clinic, and Brad, particularly like your call to action for the private sector to really engage with the higher education sector. So thank you very much indeed both for joining.
No, thank you very much.
The Today's Family Lawyer podcast is available on your preferred podcast provider. It's also available on todaysfamilylawyer.co.uk. My thanks to John and to Brad. Thank you as ever for listening, and we'll see you again soon.
You're listening to the Today's Family Lawyer podcast, the leading source of daily news and insight for family law practitioners in England and Wales. Sign up to our free weekly newsletter at todaysfamilylawyer.co.uk and subscribe to hear all the latest news and views from across the family law sector. You can also follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter.
Vacancy Legal Recruitment, a refreshingly unique and personal talent agency developed specifically for legal. Dedicated to the sector and with extensive experience working across legal services and legal technology, we bridge the gap between your requirements and top-tier legal talent. Get in touch today and say hello at vacancy.co.uk.